Hi everyone, welcome to the Oracle Show. Today I thought it would be a good opportunity to review the transfer window that's just gone by in the summer. And I know it's a bit late. I know a lot of games have already come by in September, but because we got the international break, I thought it would be a good idea just to look at the transfer window and give my thoughts on it. And it's good to look at things in hindsight. And there's been a lot of good things that have happened in this transfer window, and there's also been some things that I feel we missed out on. I think two key players that we probably missed out on is Benjamin Sesko and Nico Williams. I know there's already been a lot of videos out there, not from myself, but from other YouTubers that have probably talked about how they would benefit the team. Nico Williams had a sensational Euros, especially winning it with Spain, and Benjamin Sesko looked to be a fresh new talent coming out of the Euros as well. Unfortunately, they both decided to remain in their clubs and they signed a new contract. And I think that a big factor into why Arsenal's transfer window went the way that it did is because there was a lot of time wasted, especially with Benjamin Sesko. I know with Benjamin Sesko, he's been talking to many different clubs and deciding where he was going to go. I think as a player, it was probably a good idea that he stayed in RB Leipzig for his own development. But as an Arsenal fan, it's quite annoying that we weren't able to get that deal over the line. But it's okay. These things happen, and it's all about being proactive. If one target doesn't come through, we need to be able to find a replacement. In terms of our players that have come into the club, on paper, David Raya, he was on loan and we signed him permanently. I think that has been a very good signing for us. He's been looking absolutely sensational so far this season. He's got multiple man the matches, saving penalties, doing well in the Champions League, especially in the league. A lot of people were doubting Aaron Ramsdale. Now, Aaron Ramsdale, as a backup keeper, I thought he was doing okay. Fun fact, I actually was able to see Aaron Ramsdale in the game against Brentford where he did make that mistake, and it was his last performance for the club, and I thought it was unfortunate with everything that's happened to him. I thought he would have been Arsenal's keeper for years to come, but if we weren't sure before, now we can be sure that David Raya is probably the better keeper, just with the way that he's able to catch the ball when crosses are coming in and the saves that he's been doing and the way he's been able to read players' minds when penalties are taking place. He's been looking very good, so that is a good thing that we were able to make permanent. Although I would say that if you are a player on loan, then I don't really count that as a new signing because he's already been here, so there's not much to talk about, especially with Calafiori. Now, Calafiori, he's made his name known in the Euros. The commentators have said his name so many times whenever Italy was playing. He was playing centre back, but to see him play in that left back position, and even in some games he was playing right back, it's good that we've added some steel into the defence, because last season I think a big factor into why the left hand side was so problematic was because a lot of our left backs just wasn't either on form, or they were injured, or we had to do makeshift solutions, especially with Kirill. And he's come into the side. He's had a couple of knocks when it came to the international breaks in September, but I think with the way that he looks in terms of his maverick personality and the way he's able to take charge in certain situations, I think that this was a good signing, especially with players that are versatile, which is something that Mikel Arteta likes, and it can only give us more solutions if problems arise. Mikel Moreno, he was very unfortunate to get injured, especially in the beginning of the season or just before the start of the season, but I think we're going to have to wait and see how time goes on. I think Mikel Moreno is going to be the Partey replacement. Eventually Partey is going to be edged out away from the team and Mikel Moreno is going to be playing or starting more games eventually. That's my prediction. Maybe Arteta has some different ideas, but I just think with Mikel Moreno, that is what's going to happen. He's 6 foot plus, he's played for Spain, he scored that great goal in the semi-finals to help Spain get to the final and win the tournament. Although there were some questions of whether we could have signed Fabian Ruiz ahead of Mikel Moreno just because Fabian Ruiz was starting, although I think that would have been a lot more money, a lot more hassle, and we probably went for Mikel Moreno. And I think it's too early for me to say because he's just got himself into the side, but I do think that he could possibly do well for Arsenal, but we have to wait and watch. Now, if we were to look at other players that have come into the club, two more that I'll discuss. One is Neto. Now, Neto is a goalkeeper, and we needed a second choice goalkeeper that could hopefully give Raya some rest and play out the Carabao Cup games, the FA Cup games, especially in the early stages, or even in the Champions League if we hopefully have already qualified. So this was a bit of a disappointing signing just because we signed a goalkeeper that is cup tied in the Carabao Cup. So the one tournament that you're meant to play in, can't play in. So it does give questions to Edu and Arteta on what they were thinking signing this player. Because if you really wanted to find a second choice goalkeeper, I'm sure there were a lot more solutions out there in the market, especially if you wanted to bring someone on loan. And to bring in a goalkeeper that is cup tied, it's a brain dead decision, I have to say. It's very disappointing. I'm not sure if we're going to see him play. And we've also seen in the Carabao Cup, we had to play a 16-year-old kid. So, and as good as that 16-year-old kid would be, it's just not good recruitment from that side. And the final guy that we brought in is Raheem Sterling. Now, Raheem Sterling is an individual who has had a lot of controversy in the past, whether it's his fault or not. The English media love to pick on him, in my opinion, and it's not good at all. And especially in Chelsea, he hasn't had the best of times. He's been on a very large contract with 300k plus. So we were seeing exactly who would take him. He was available for a good amount of the transfer window, I'd say, and it was quite clear that he wasn't part of Chelsea's plans. Now with Chelsea, it's whether or not we want to take another player off them. We took Jorginho, we took Willian, we took Havertz, and some of those players have worked out, some of them haven't. So it's about seeing whether or not we want to continue taking players off Chelsea. I'm frankly quite sick of it. If I want to take a player of Chelsea, I'll take someone like Cole Palmer or someone of that ilk, just because the Ashley Cole transfer still burns me to this day. But with Raheem Sterling, I think this could potentially be good or bad. And I think it depends on what your expectations are. If you're expecting Raheem Sterling to be playing like how he did at Manchester City and have high expectations, then I don't know, we're going to have to wait and see. I think with Raheem Sterling, because I'm not really expecting much, I think it's a good signing. I think the individual that will give Bukayo Saka some rest on the right hand side. We have Trossard, we have Sterling, we have Martinelli, so it's good that we add numbers into this side, especially with the amount of games that are coming up, and he could provide good competition for Martinelli, for Saka in either of the wing positions, and just provide some extra depth. And who knows, if he is able to reclaim his form, and if we have seen in the transfer video that he has made, it's clear that he wants to make a point, make a statement, and show that he's back, and that is music to my ears. I want Raheem Sterling to be the top player that he is. He has been one of the best players in the Premier League and in Europe, and he's helped Manchester City win many Premier League titles. So it's good to have a player of that experience in the side and provide us with a different option. I think especially on the other side of the transfer window, it's quite clear that we were focused on the departures and making sure we get a lot of players out the door, because especially over the previous years, we've been spending a lot of money. So now it was time to sell a lot of the players and rebuild in certain areas. I think with the departures of Smith Rowe, Vieira, Nelson and Ketia, I think were good departures. I think the problem is with Smith Rowe and Vieira, because they're players that play in the same position, we lost some depth in the attacking midfield position, and when Odegaard got injured, Arsenal was scrambling, thinking about, okay, who are we going to play next? Who's going to take over Martin Odegaard's position while he's out? And so far, Leandro Trossard has stepped up, taken that position, and has done very well. I didn't expect Trossard to do that. I don't think any fan thought Trossard would play in that attacking mid position, but he has, and he has done very well. But I do think from Arsenal's side, they have made a mistake by at least not keeping one of them. I think it was a good idea to sell Smith Rowe, especially for the price they've gone for. It is unfortunate because I think he is a very good player, but there's only so long you can keep a player like that on the bench. And while he did provide a good depth option, it was good that he's moved, and I think for Fulham he's been looking very well. Hopefully he doesn't play like that when Arsenal come around, but we're gonna have to wait and watch. Vieira, he's been at Arsenal for a couple years now and he hasn't made much of an impact, we gotta be honest. I think it's a good idea that he went to Porto, hopefully to reclaim his form and hopefully get back into the national side as well. I'm just a bit concerned with our depth options, especially if Odegaard gets injured, then what next? I know that Ethan Nwaneri is an option that people love talking about, but we've got to remember he's a kid. He's just come into the side. We need to ease him in. and we need to be a bit patient with him and not expose him too much, because we have made that mistake in the past and left a lot of players to injuries. Jack Wilshere, one example, Aaron Ramsey, another example, stuff like that. Other than that, we got rid of Lokonga, which is another good decision. El Nini is left on a free. He's been a good servant to the club, but it was time for him to move on, get some game time somewhere else. Nuno Tavares, also a good decision that we moved him on. Now, in terms of the goalkeepers, we got rid of Cole Hine and Okonkwo. Like I said, with the goalkeeper decision, I think it would have been a good idea if we had managed to keep one of them as a third choice keeper and not rely on the 16-year-old. But we can't really change things now, and with Cole Hine, he's been at the club for quite a while, so it was good that he's been able to leave and get some game time somewhere else. Cedric Soares actually left as well in this window, which is very, very surprising, because I can't believe he's been at the club for so long, but credit to him, he's been there when we needed him, and best of luck to him in his future endeavors. And there was also Marquinhos, who's gone to the Brazilian league, which will hopefully be good for him as well. So as a result, I think this window was okay. We tried to look at the net spend. Overall, we have a net loss of 26 million. For the financial side for Arsenal, that's great, but the fan in me, I don't care about all of that. I care about making sure we were able to set ourselves well for the season in the positions that we needed. I think for the attacking mid position, we missed out on. Yes, it was a good idea getting rid of Vieira and Smith Rowe, but we needed a backup there. I think defensively, we are as good as we can be in terms of depth. Maybe we could have gone for a centre back, but I think we're okay there. Goalkeeper was an absolute brain dead howler. That was very bad. Okay, you got rid of Ramsdale. Ramsdale is gone, but you need to bring in someone who is at least not cup tied, and that was a very stupid decision from Arsenal to bring in a keeper who is cup tied in the Carabao Cup, which is the one cup in which your second or third choice keeper would play in. Other than that, Raheem Sterling, I'm not really expecting too much from him. I have quite low expectations because of just what I've seen from Chelsea, but I think he'll be a good depth option, and I think he has a point to prove, so he'll be alright. Mikel Moreno, let's see. We'll have to wait and see what goes on with him. He was injured, and I think he will be eased into the team as time goes on. So if I were to give this window a rating out of 10, I would give it a 5. And the reason why I give it a 5 is because there were some areas where we've improved on in our depth, such as our defense, but there's also been areas where we've also lost our depth in, like the midfield. And if we were to look at a lot of the players that have come in, I gotta be honest, I'm not as excited or really entertained from some of the signings we've made. Yes, Calafiori is a good signing. Mikel Moreno, we're gonna have to wait and watch. David Raya, he was already at the club anyway. But just because I'm not really entertained by these signings, and just because our depth hasn't really changed too much, if you really look at it, then that's the amount that I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. I hope that Arsenal have some funds ready for January in case there's other injuries, because Lord knows we are going through so many injuries right now. It's actually ridiculous, but we're gonna have to wait and watch. So yeah, that's my views of the transfer window. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. Let's see how the next one goes about. Hope you guys will like this video. Hope you were able to understand where I was coming from in terms of what I think or how I feel that we did, especially in this transfer window, and I hope to see you all soon. Bye bye.